Lihana stepped off the transport ship with shaky legs. The massive space station stretched out before her like a metal city floating in the stars. Kepler Station was bigger than anything she had ever seen. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked through the corridors. Some had scales, others had feathers, and a few looked like giant insects. Hana clutched her old backpack tighter and tried not to stare. She was nervous. This was her first time away from Earth, and everything here was so different. The air smelled strange, like metal, and something sweet she could not name. The gravity felt a little lighter than home, making her feel like she might float away if she was not careful. Hana joined the long line of travelers waiting to go through customs. She pulled out her student papers and checked them for the 10th time. Everything looked correct. She was here as an exchange student to learn about alien cultures. Her teachers back on Earth had told her this would be the experience of a lifetime. The line moved slowly. Hana watched the customs officers check each traveler. Most aliens went through quickly, but she noticed they spent more time with the few humans in line. One human merchant had his entire cargo checked twice. Another human tourist had to answer many questions about why he was visiting. Finally, it was Hana's turn. She walked up to the customs desk where a large reptilian alien sat. His scales were dark green and his eyes were yellow with thin pupils like a snake. A metal badge on his uniform read Commander Vex. Next to him stood a smaller alien that looked like a praying mantis with 4 arms. This one's badge said Officer Quinn. Papers, Commander Vex said in a bored voice. His accent was thick and hard to understand. Hana handed over her documents with trembling hands. Here you go, sir. I am a student from Earth University. I am here to study alien cultures for my degree. Commander Vex looked at her papers and then at her. His yellow eyes moved up and down, taking in her appearance. Hana was small for a human, with short black hair and wearing simple clothes. She looked exactly like what she claimed to be, a young, nervous student far from home. Human, he said, like the word tasted bad. Another one of you primitive creatures thinking you can learn from your betters. Hana's face turned red, but she kept quiet. She had been warned that some aliens did not like humans very much. Bag on the table, Officer Quinn said in a clicking voice. We must check everything. Hana lifted her backpack onto the metal table. It was old and covered with patches from different Earth schools and tourist places. The patches were bright and colorful, showing pictures of Earth landmarks and university logos. Commander Vex picked up one of the patches and laughed. Look at this primitive art. They put pictures on fabric like children. Officer Quinn began to empty the backpack methodically. First came textbooks with titles like Basic Alien, Languages and How to Not Offend Other Species. The books looked well used, and had notes written in the margins in Hana's. Handwriting. Studying hard, are we? Commander Vex said with a sneer. These books are for children. Any real species learns this in primary school. Next came some Earth snacks. Officer Quinn held up a package of chocolate cookies and sniffed it. He made a disgusted face and dropped it back on the table. How do you eat this garbage? He asked. Sorry, Hana said quietly. I brought them from home. They taste good to humans. Commander Vex picked up her tablet computer. It was thick and bulky compared to the slim devices the aliens used. What is this ancient technology? Do you humans still use stone tools too? Hana's tablet was at least 5 years old and looked primitive next to the holographic displays around the station. The screen was cracked in one corner, and she had put tape over it to keep it working. It is just for my schoolwork, she said. I cannot afford a newer one. The commander turned on the device and scrolled through her files. He found homework assignments, photos of her family back on Earth, and some games she played when she was bored. Everything looked exactly like what a normal college student would have. Officer Quinn continued emptying the bag. He found more normal items, pens, pencils, a small camera, some medicine for headaches, and a few souvenirs from her trip to the moon before leaving Earth. Each item seemed to confirm that she was exactly what she appeared to be. Look at this, Commander Vex said, holding up a small stuffed animal. It was a teddy bear wearing a tiny Earth University shirt. Humans carry toys like babies. It is from my little sister, Hana explained, her voice small. She gave it to me before I left so I would not be lonely. Both aliens laughed at this. Commander Vex tossed the bear back on the table carelessly. Your species is pathetic, he said. No wonder you have never left your own solar system until recently. You are too soft and weak for real space travel. Hana bit her lip and said nothing. She had heard these insults before during her journey to the station.
Many aliens thought humans were the weakest species in the galaxy. Officer Quinn was almost finished with the bag.
His 4 hands moved efficiently, checking every pocket and compartment. Hana watched nervously as he searched. She hoped they would finish soon so she could go to her dormitory and rest. The officer's movements suddenly slowed. His compound eyes focused on something at the very bottom of the backpack. His hands touched fabric that felt different from everything else. Smoother, more refined, almost silky. "What is this?" he asked, his voice changing slightly. Hana's heart began to beat faster, but she kept her face calm. "What do you mean?" Officer Quinn carefully pulled out a piece of folded cloth. It was dark blue, almost black, and folded so perfectly that the creases looked like they had been made by a machine. The fabric seemed to shimmer slightly under the station's lights, though it was hard to tell if that was real or just a trick of the eye. Commander Vex stopped laughing and looked at the cloth more carefully. His yellow eyes narrowed as he studied it. "Unfold it," he ordered Officer Quinn. The insect-like alien carefully unfolded the fabric. As it opened, they could see it was some kind of uniform. The material was unlike anything they had seen before. It looked simple, but something about it felt wrong. The fabric was too perfect, too precise for human manufacturing. On the chest area, there was an insignia embroidered in silver thread. It showed the planet Earth surrounded by stars, with text written in several languages around the border. Some of the languages looked human, but others were much older and more complex. Commander Vex reached out to touch the uniform, then pulled his hand back as if it might burn him. The fabric seemed to have a very faint energy field around it, almost too small to notice. "Where did you get this?" he demanded, his voice no longer bored. Hana looked at the uniform with sad eyes. "It belonged to my grandfather. He died last year, and I carry it to remember him." "What kind of uniform is this?" Officer Quinn asked. His compound eyes were studying every detail of the fabric and insignia. "He was a soldier," Hana said simply. "He fought in some war a long time ago. He never talked about it much. He said it was not important and that he was just a simple man who did his duty." Commander Vex and Officer Quinn exchanged a look. Neither of them recognized the uniform's design, and that was unusual. They knew the military styles of every major species in the galaxy. The fabric itself was troubling. It appeared to be made from materials that should not exist with human technology. The way it held its shape, the slight shimmer in the light, the perfect construction. None of it matched what they knew about human manufacturing capabilities. "What war?" Commander Vex asked, his voice sharper now. Hana shrugged. "I do not know. He never told me details. He said the past should stay in the past and that I should focus on building a better future." Officer Quinn was running a small scanner over the uniform. The device beeped several times, showing readings that made both aliens go very still. "Sir," Quinn said quietly to his commander, "these energy signatures are not in our database." Commander Vex's confidence was starting to crack. He had dealt with thousands of travelers and could spot fake documents, hidden weapons, or illegal goods from across the room. But this simple piece of cloth was giving him a feeling he did not like. "Pack everything up," he told Officer Quinn. "We need to run some additional checks." Hana nodded politely. "Of course, sir. I understand you have important security procedures." But as Officer Quinn carefully folded the uniform and placed it back in her bag with the rest of her belongings, both aliens noticed something that made them even more uncomfortable. Throughout the entire inspection, through all the insults and rough treatment of her possessions, Hana had remained perfectly calm. She had acted nervous and apologetic, but her breathing had never changed, her hands had never truly shaken, and her eyes had been watching everything around her with a sharpness that did not match her innocent student act. For the first time since becoming head of station security, Commander Vex felt like he might be the one being studied. Officer Quinn held the uniform up to the light and studied it more carefully. His compound eyes could see details that most other species would miss. The fabric was not just unusual, it was impossible. The threads were woven so tightly that they looked solid, but somehow the material was also incredibly light. When he bent it, the fabric returned to its perfect shape without any wrinkles. "Commander," Quinn said quietly, "this material has properties I have never seen before." Commander Vex moved closer to look. The uniform seemed simple at first glance, but the more he studied it, the more wrong it felt. The silver insignia was not just embroidered on the surface. It seemed to be part of the fabric itself, like it had been grown rather than sewn. "What kind of metal is this thread?" Vex asked, pointing at the insignia. Quinn ran his scanner over it again. The device made confused beeping sounds. "The scanner cannot identify it, sir. It reads as several different materials at the same time." Hannah watched them examine her grandfather's uniform. She kept her face sad and innocent, like a granddaughter missing her family. "He was very proud of that uniform," she said softly. "Even though he said his service was not important, he always kept it perfectly clean and folded." Commander Vex looked at her suspiciously. Something about her story felt wrong, but he could not figure out what. "What unit did your grandfather serve in?" "I do not know the details," Hannah replied. "He had a simple rank. He said he just followed orders and tried to help keep peace." "Peace?" Vex repeated. "What kind of peace?" Before Hannah could answer, Officer Quinn made a sound of alarm. He was studying the insignia more closely with a magnifying scanner. "Sir, look at this text around the border. These languages. Some of them are not human." Commander Vex leaned in to see. The text was written in several scripts. Human English was there and what looked like Chinese characters. But there were also symbols from languages that were much older. Scripts that had been used by advanced civilizations thousands of years before humans had even discovered fire. "That is impossible," Vex muttered. "Humans could not have known these languages." "Maybe my grandfather learned them during his service," Anna suggested helpfully. "He was very smart and loved learning about other cultures." At that moment, an alarm chimed softly at the customs desk. Officer Quinn checked his terminal and saw that someone was requesting permission to enter the customs area. "Commander," Quinn said, "there is a human asking to speak with us. He says he is here to collect the student." "Let him in," Vex ordered. He wanted to see what other humans were like. The door slid open and a man walked in. He was older than Hannah, maybe in his 30s, with glasses and clothes that looked like a teacher might wear. He moved slowly and carefully, like someone who spent most of his time reading books rather than doing physical work. "Hello," the man said politely, bowing slightly to both aliens. "I am Dr. Yoon Minho from Earth University. I am here to collect my student Lee Hannah. We have an important meeting to attend." Commander Vex looked him up and down. Dr. Yoon looked exactly like what Vex expected from a human academic. Soft, weak, and more interested in books than real life. "We are conducting a security inspection," Vex told him. "Your student will be released when we are finished." "Of course," Dr. Yoon said with a smile. "Please take all the time you need. Security is very important." But something about the professor bothered Officer Quinn. While Dr. Yoon seemed relaxed and friendly, Quinn noticed that his eyes had quickly scanned the entire room when he entered. He had noted the positions of all the security cameras, the exits, and even the locations of the weapon storage lockers. That was not normal behavior for a soft academic. "Dr. Yoon," Hannah said happily, "I am so glad you are here. These officers are being very thorough with their inspection." "That is good," Dr. Yoon replied. "Thoroughness keeps everyone safe." Commander Vex decided to test the professor. "Do you know anything about this uniform we found in your student's bag?" Dr. Yoon walked over and looked at the uniform that Officer Quinn was still holding. His expression became thoughtful and a little sad. "Ah yes, her grandfather's uniform. Poor Hannah has been carrying it since he died. He meant a great deal to her." "What do you know about her grandfather's military service?" Vex asked. Dr. Yoon adjusted his glasses and seemed to think carefully. "Not much, I'm afraid. He was a very private man. He served during some conflict decades ago, but he never talked about it. Many soldiers prefer not to discuss difficult times." Officer Quinn was still troubled by the uniform's properties. He decided to contact the station's senior command for advice. "Commander, I think we should have Captain Zeth look at this." Commander Vex nodded. Captain Zeth was an old soldier who had seen combat across the galaxy. If anyone would recognize an unusual military uniform, it would be him. A few minutes later, Captain Zeth arrived. He was a tall, bird-like alien with gray feathers and sharp yellow eyes. His uniform showed many combat decorations from various wars. He had been fighting battles since before humans had even left their home planet. "What do you need me to see?" Captain Zeth asked in his crackling voice. Officer Quinn handed him the uniform. "We found this in the human student's bag." The material and construction are unusual. Captain Zeth took the uniform and immediately went very still. His feathers, which had been relaxed, suddenly flattened against his body. In his species, this was a sign of extreme alarm or fear. "Where did you get this?" he asked Hana, his voice much sharper than before. "It belonged to my grandfather," Hana repeated. "He was a soldier many years ago." Captain Zeth studied the insignia carefully. His expression grew more and more troubled as he examined it. "Commander Vex," he said slowly, "I need to run some database searches immediately." "What is wrong?" Vex asked. He had never seen Captain Zeth look worried about anything. "This insignia. I have seen something like it before. In old battle reports. Very old reports." Captain Zeth moved to a computer terminal and began searching through military databases. Dr. Yoon and Hana waited patiently, but Officer Quinn noticed that neither of them seemed surprised or worried about the captain's reaction. After several minutes of searching, Captain Zeth made a sound of shock. His feathers flattened even more. "Commander, we have a problem," he said quietly. "I am finding references to similar insignias in classified reports from the Battle of Zerion Prime." "The Battle of Zerion Prime?" Vex repeated. "That was 30 years ago. Humans were not even part of galactic civilization then." "That is what makes this so disturbing," Captain Zeth replied. He pulled up files on his screen. "Look at these energy readings from weapons used in that battle. They match the energy signature coming from this uniform." Officer Quinn looked at his scanner readings again. The fabric was definitely giving off the same type of energy that had been detected at one of the most important battles in recent galactic history. "But that is impossible," Commander Vex said. "The Battle of Zerion Prime was won by a coalition of advanced species against the Demarian Empire. There were no humans involved." Captain Zeth continued reading through the files. "Actually, there are some strange gaps in the official records. Several reports mention unidentified soldiers who appeared during the final assault. They moved with unusual coordination and used weapons that were not in any database. What happened to these unidentified soldiers?" Dr. Yoon asked with what seemed like academic curiosity. "They disappeared as soon as the battle ended," Captain Zeth said. "No one ever found out who they were or where they came from." Hana spoke up in a small voice. "My grandfather used to have nightmares sometimes. He would talk in his sleep about flying through space and fighting to protect people. I always thought they were just bad dreams." The three aliens looked at each other with growing concern. The pieces of information did not make sense when put together, but they could not ignore the evidence in front of them. "Captain," Officer Quinn said, "what if the unidentified soldiers were human? That would mean humans had advanced military technology 30 years ago," Captain Zeth replied. "Long before they were supposed to have developed space travel." Commander Vex felt his confidence cracking. "But humans are primitive. Everyone knows that. They only recently learned how to travel between star systems. Are we sure about that?" Captain Zeth asked quietly. He looked at Hana and Dr. Yoon with new eyes. "What if we have been wrong about human development?" Dr. Yoon smiled politely. "I think you may be overthinking this. Sometimes old military equipment just has unusual properties. Perhaps Hana's grandfather found this uniform somewhere and kept it as a souvenir." But Captain Zeth was not convinced. He had fought in enough wars to recognize when something did not add up. The uniform, the energy readings, the gaps in historical records, it all pointed to something much larger than a simple student carrying her grandfather's clothes. "I'm going to contact Galactic Intelligence," he announced. "They need to analyze this uniform properly." "Of course," Hana said sweetly. "I want to help in any way I can. My grandfather always taught me to cooperate with authorities." As Captain Zeth walked away to make his call, Officer Quinn noticed something that made him even more uncomfortable. While the conversation had been going on, Dr. Yoon had been standing in a position where he could see all the security monitors. More importantly, Hana had slowly moved to where she could watch both exits from the room. Captain Zeth spent the next hour going through classified military databases. What he found made his blood run cold. The more he searched, the more disturbed he became. There were patterns hidden in the data that he had never noticed before. In his private office, he pulled up files from dozens of conflicts over the past 40 years. At first glance, everything looked normal. But when he started looking for gaps and inconsistencies, he found them everywhere. The Battle of Zerion Prime was just the beginning. At the Siege of Kalos, there were reports of equipment malfunctions that somehow helped the defending forces win against impossible odds. During the trade war of the Outer Rim, several key negotiations had been settled by human merchants who appeared to know classified information about both sides. Captain Zeth rubbed his tired eyes and continued reading. At the liberation of Centauri Station, witnesses reported seeing soldiers in dark uniforms who moved like shadows and seemed to appear and disappear at will. The official records listed them as unidentified Allied forces, but now Zeth was beginning to suspect who they really were. A message appeared on his screen. Galactic Intelligence was sending General Threx to speak with him via secure communication. Zeth's heart sank. General Threx was a legend, a massive Brutan warrior who had survived more battles than any soldier in the galaxy. If they were bringing in Threx, this situation was more serious than anyone had realized. The hologram flickered to life, showing the scarred face of General Threx. The Brutan was huge even as a projection, with thick armor plating on his skin and scars from a dozen different weapon types. His species was known for being fearless in battle, so Zeth was shocked to see genuine worry in the general's eyes. "Captain Zeth," Threx said in his deep, rumbling voice, "I understand you have found something concerning." "Yes, sir. A human student is carrying a military uniform that matches energy signatures from several historical battles. The fabric appears to be made from materials beyond current human technology." General Threx was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was troubled. "Captain, I fought at Zarian Prime. I was there when the unidentified soldiers appeared. Can you tell me what you saw?" The general's scarred face grew darker. "They were like nothing I had ever encountered. They moved with perfect coordination as if they could read each other's minds. Their weapons were silent but devastatingly effective. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to know exactly where every enemy position would be before the enemies moved there." Captain Zeth felt a chill run down his spine.
"How many of them were there?"
"That was the strangest part," General Threx continued. "I counted maybe 24 soldiers, but they had the tactical impact of a full battalion. They appeared at exactly the right moment, struck at exactly the right targets, and disappeared before anyone could study their equipment. Did you see their faces? They wore helmets with reflective visors, but they were human-sized and moved like humans. At the time, we thought they might be an unknown human colony that had developed advanced technology in secret." Captain Zeth pulled up the energy readings from Hana's uniform. "General, these readings match the weapon signatures from your battle reports." General Threx leaned forward to study the data. His expression grew even more grim. "Captain, if that uniform is real, then humans have been operating advanced military units for at least 30 years. That would mean everything we know about their technological development is wrong." Back in the customs area, Hana and Dr. Yoon waited patiently while the investigation continued. To any observer, they looked like exactly what they claimed to be, a nervous student and her academic advisor. But Officer Quinn was starting to notice small details that bothered him. Dr. Yoon kept checking his watch, not like someone who was worried about being late, but like someone who was coordinating with the schedule. Hana appeared to be reading a book, but her eyes occasionally flicked to the security cameras in a pattern that suggested she was tracking guard rotations. Commander Vex returned from checking on Captain Zeth's investigation. His confidence was completely gone now, replaced by barely controlled anxiety. "The situation is becoming complicated," he told his officers quietly. "Galactic Intelligence is involved now." At that moment, a new message arrived at the customs desk. Officer Quinn read it, and his compound eyes widened in alarm. "Commander, we have another problem. Ambassador Kil Tewu is requesting permission to dock at the station." Commander Vex went pale. Ambassador Kil Tewu was known throughout the galaxy as one of the most effective diplomats in human service. He had a reputation for appearing whenever human interests were threatened, and his negotiations always ended in humanity's favor. Why would a human ambassador be coming here? Vex wondered aloud. Maybe he heard about the inspection, Dr. Yoon suggested helpfully. Ambassadors sometimes worry when their citizens are detained for questioning, but Officer Quinn was suspicious. How could he have heard about this so quickly? We only started the investigation a few hours ago. Dr. Yoon shrugged. News travels fast in space. Perhaps someone sent a message. 20 minutes later, Ambassador Kil Tewu arrived at the customs area. He was a distinguished-looking man in his 50s, wearing elegant diplomatic robes and moving with the calm confidence of someone used to solving problems. "Good afternoon," he said politely, bowing to the alien officers. "I understand there has been some confusion regarding one of our students. I am here to assist in any way possible." Commander Vex found himself stammering. "Ambassador, we are conducting a routine security inspection. There is no need for diplomatic intervention." "Of course not," the ambassador agreed smoothly. "I am sure this is all a simple misunderstanding. However, as a representative of Earth, I felt it was appropriate to ensure that proper procedures are being followed." Captain Zeth emerged from his office looking extremely troubled. When he saw Ambassador Kiltewu, he went very still. "Ambassador," Captain Zeth said carefully, "this is an unexpected visit." "Captain Zeth," the ambassador replied with a warm smile. "It is good to see you again." "How long has it been?" "Since the peace negotiations at Rigel Station." "You two know each other?" Commander Vex asked. "The ambassador helped negotiate the end of the Rigel conflict," Captain Zeth explained. "His mediation prevented a war that could have killed millions. I simply helped people find common ground," Ambassador Kill said modestly. Violence is rarely the best solution to disagreements, but Captain Zeth was remembering more details about those negotiations. Ambassador Kill had known things about both sides' military capabilities that should have been classified. He had proposed solutions that required incredibly detailed knowledge of weapon systems and defensive capabilities. "Ambassador," Captain Zeth said slowly, "how did you know to come here today?" "A concerned citizen contacted our embassy," the ambassador replied smoothly. "We maintain communication networks to ensure the safety of human travelers. Officer Quinn was running new database searches. What he found made him even more nervous." "Commander," he said quietly, "Ambassador Kill has been present at 17 major diplomatic incidents over the past decade. In every case, the outcome favored human interests. That suggests he is skilled at his job," Dr. Yoon commented. "Or that he has access to information that allows him to predict outcomes," Captain Zeth said grimly. At that moment, General Threx's hologram flickered back to life in the customs area. The massive Brutan warrior looked even more troubled than before. "Captain, I have completed my analysis of the uniform data. We need to speak privately." "General, we have a situation developing here. Ambassador Kiltewu has arrived." General Threx's eyes widened in recognition and what looked like fear. "Ambassador Kill was at Zerion Prime," he said slowly. "He was listed as a civilian observer for the peace negotiations that followed the battle." "What is wrong with that?" Commander Vex asked. "The peace negotiations began 3 days after the battle ended," General Threx replied. "But according to station logs, Ambassador Kill arrived in the system 2 days before the fighting started. The customs area went completely silent." Everyone stared at the ambassador, who maintained his calm, diplomatic smile. "Sometimes diplomatic schedules are arranged well in advance," he said pleasantly. "But how could you have known there would be a battle to negotiate about?" Captain Zeth asked. "Experienced diplomats learn to recognize when tensions are building toward conflict," Ambassador Kill replied. "Prevention is always preferable to reaction." General Threx's voice cut through the tension. "Captain, I have one more piece of information. The unidentified soldiers at Zerion Prime were observed taking orders from a human in diplomatic dress. The description matches Ambassador Kill exactly." Commander Vex felt like the floor was falling out from under him. Everything he thought he knew about humans was crumbling. They were not primitive or weak. They had been operating advanced military and intelligence operations across the galaxy for decades. "What are you people?" he whispered. Hana looked up from her book with innocent eyes. "We are just humans, sir. We want to learn about the galaxy and make friends with other species." But her words no longer sounded naive. They sounded like exactly what someone would say if they were conducting the most Sophie. The tension in the customs area was thick enough to cut with a knife. Commander Vex looked around at the humans in the room, Hana with her innocent student act, Dr. Yoon with his bookish professor appearance, and Ambassador Kill with his diplomatic smile. None of them looked threatening, but that was exactly what made them terrifying. "Security alert," Officer Quinn said suddenly, checking his console. "Someone is requesting access to the customs area with maintenance credentials." "Who?" Commander Vex demanded. "Han Kyung. He is listed as a Level 3 maintenance worker. He has been assigned to this station for 3 years." Commander Vex frowned. He vaguely remembered the human maintenance worker. a quiet man who fixed things and never caused trouble. Why would maintenance need to come here now? The door slid open and Han Kyung entered. He was wearing standard maintenance coveralls and carrying a tool bag. He looked like any other worker, unremarkable and forgettable. Commander Vex had probably seen him hundreds of times without really noticing him. "Sorry to interrupt," Han Kyung said politely. "I received a work order to check the security sensors in this area." But instead of going to the sensor panels, Han Kyung walked directly to Ambassador Kill and stood at attention. "Lieutenant Han Kyung reporting, sir. Galactic Intelligence Division, Surveillance and Communications." The alien officers stared in shock. The quiet maintenance worker they had ignored for 3 years had just identified himself as a military intelligence officer. "Thank you, Lieutenant," Ambassador Kill said calmly. "Please provide your status report." "Sir, all monitoring systems have been functioning normally. I have complete records of station communications, cargo manifests, and personnel movements for the past 36 months. No security breaches detected." Captain Zeth felt like he was going to be sick. "You have been spying on us for 3 years?" "Monitoring, sir," Han Kyung corrected politely. "Standard intelligence gathering to ensure peaceful relations." Commander Vex's mind was racing. If humans had placed an intelligence officer on Kepler Station 3 years ago, how many other stations had similar agents? How many human merchants, tourists, and workers throughout the galaxy were actually military personnel? At that moment, Ambassador Kill's communicator chimed softly. He answered it and spoke briefly in a language the aliens did not recognize. "Gentlemen," he announced, "Admiral Jang Sora would like to speak with you." A new hologram appeared in the room. The woman who materialized was clearly military, her bearing, her uniform, and the way she commanded attention just by existing. Admiral Jang Sora looked like she could order the destruction of star systems and sleep well afterward. "Captain Zeth, Commander Vex," she said in a crisp, professional voice. "I understand you have questions about human military capabilities." "Admiral," Captain Zeth said carefully, "we are trying to understand how humans have developed advanced technology without anyone noticing." Admiral Jang smiled, but it was not a warm expression. "Captain, you are making an incorrect assumption. You assume that we recently developed advanced technology. The truth is that we have had this technology for quite some time. We simply chose not to advertise it." "How long?" General Threx's voice came through his hologram. "General Threx," Admiral Jang said with what seemed like genuine respect, "you fought well at Zerion Prime. To answer your question, humans have been conducting galactic operations for approximately 60 years. 60 years? Commander Vex sputtered. But humans only made first contact with galactic civilization 20 years ago. First official contact, the Admiral corrected. We had been observing and studying galactic civilizations for 40 years before we revealed ourselves. Dr. Yoon spoke up in his mild professor voice. It seemed wise to understand the political and social structures we would be dealing with before announcing our presence. Captain Zeth was beginning to understand the scope of what had been happening. The primitive technology, the naive behavior, the weak appearance, and it was all an act? Not an act, Hannah said, speaking for the first time in her normal voice instead of her nervous student persona. A carefully designed strategy. We genuinely want to learn about other species and build positive relationships. We simply prefer to do so from a position of strength rather than weakness. Admiral Jang activated new displays that showed technical specifications. The alien officers stared in amazement at technology that was decades beyond anything in their databases. Our ships can travel faster than your fastest vessels, the Admiral explained matter-of-factly. Our weapons can disable entire fleets without killing anyone. Our communication systems span the galaxy instantaneously. Most importantly, our intelligence network provides real-time information about political and military developments throughout known space. How many of you are there? Officer Quinn asked in a whisper. Currently, we have approximately 12,000 personnel deployed throughout the galaxy in various cover identities, Admiral Jang replied. Students, merchants, tourists, maintenance workers, academics, diplomats, all gathering information and ensuring that no single species can dominate others. General Threx leaned forward in his hologram. What is your ultimate goal? Peace, Ambassador Kill answered simply. We have studied the history of galactic civilizations. We have seen what happens when one species becomes powerful enough to impose its will on others. We prefer a system where all species can develop and thrive without fear of conquest. And if we refuse to accept this system? Commander Vex asked, though he was afraid of the answer. Admiral Zhang's expression did not change. We hope that will not be necessary to find out. The implications were staggering. Humanity had the capability to enforce galactic peace whether other species agreed or not. They had been watching, learning, and preparing for decades while everyone else thought they were harmless primitives. Show them, Ambassador Kill said to Lieutenant Han Han Kyung, opened his tool bag and pulled out a device that looked like a simple tablet. When he activated it, holographic displays filled the room showing real-time information about every ship, weapon system, and defensive installation within 50 light-years of the station. This is live intelligence, Han explained. We know the location and capabilities of every military asset in this sector. We have similar coverage throughout the galaxy. Commander Vex stared at the displays. The level of detail was impossible. The device was showing him classified information about his own station's defenses that even he did not have access to. How? He asked weakly. 60 years of careful observation and data collection, Dr. Yoon said, adjusting his glasses. When you appear harmless and helpful, people tend to share information freely. Admiral Zhang continued her briefing. We are prepared to offer membership in a new galactic cooperative. Technology sharing, peaceful conflict resolution, and mutual defense against external threats. All species would have equal representation and protection. And if we prefer the current system? Captain Zeth asked. The current system has produced 17 major wars in the past century, Admiral Zhang replied. Millions of beings have died in conflicts that could have been prevented through better communication and understanding. We believe we can do better. Hana pulled out her tablet, the same primitive-looking device that Commander Vex had mocked earlier. When she turned it on, it projected a holographic map of the entire galaxy. This shows current political tensions and potential conflict zones, she explained. Our analysts predict 3 major wars will begin within the next 5 years if current trends continue. Wars that will cost billions of lives and set back technological development for centuries. The map highlighted dozens of brewing conflicts, territorial disputes, and resource competitions. The level of detail and prediction accuracy was frightening. We can prevent these wars, Ambassador Kill said quietly. We can help species work together instead of fighting each other. But we need cooperation, not confrontation. Commander Vex looked around the room at his alien colleagues. Captain Zeth looked stunned. Officer Quinn was studying the human technology displays with fascination. General Threx appeared to be calculating military probabilities and not liking his results. What happens to those of us who have seen this? Vex asked. You become the first members of a new galactic order, Admiral Zhang said. We need experienced military and security personnel to help implement peaceful cooperation protocols. You are offering us jobs? Officer Quinn asked in surprise. We are offering you the chance to be part of something better than endless cycles of war and competition, Hana said. Your experience and knowledge would be valuable in building a truly peaceful galaxy, Lieutenant. Han walked over to Commander Vex and handed him a small device. This is a communication linked to our command structure, he explained. If you accept our offer, you will have access to information and resources beyond anything you have ever imagined. If you decline, you will be returned to your normal duties with no memory of this conversation. You can erase our memories? Captain Zeth asked. We prefer not to, Dr. Yoon said gently, but we have learned that some species are not ready to accept the truth about human capabilities. For their own peace of mind, we sometimes make small adjustments. Commander Vex held the communication device and stared at it. Everything he thought he knew about the galaxy had been turned upside down in the space of a few hours. Humans were not weak primitives. They were 3 months later. Commander Vex stood on the bridge of the first galactic cooperative vessel, watching as representatives from dozens of species worked together to coordinate a peaceful resolution to what would have been the Fourth Rigel War. The transformation had been remarkable, though not always smooth. The decision to join humanity's vision had not been easy for any of them. Captain Zeth had spent 2 weeks studying the offer before accepting. Officer Quinn had asked hundreds of technical questions about human technology. General Threx had demanded detailed explanations of human military doctrine and rules of engagement. In the end, they had all chosen to be part of the new order. The alternative, returning to a galaxy where wars were inevitable and millions died in conflicts that could be prevented, was unacceptable once they understood what was possible. Commander Vex's new position was Director of Interspecies Security Coordination. His job was to help other species adapt to the cooperative model while maintaining the security protocols that kept everyone safe. It was challenging work, but more rewarding than anything he had done before. "Sir," Officer Quinn called from his new station. He was now Chief Technology Integration Specialist, helping alien species understand and adapt human technology for their own use. "We are receiving reports from the Antares sector. The trade dispute between the Vegan Empire and the Centauri Alliance has been resolved peacefully." "How?" Vex asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. A human merchant named Park Ji-won suggested a resource-sharing agreement that benefits both sides. The negotiations concluded in 6 hours instead of the predicted 6 months of armed conflict. Vex smiled. Park Ji-won was probably another intelligence operative, just like Han Kyung had been. The galaxy was full of helpful humans who appeared at exactly the right moment with exactly the right solutions. Captain Zeth, now serving as military liaison for the cooperative, approached with a status report. "The Outer Rim Patrol has intercepted another pirate fleet attempting to raid civilian shipping lanes. No casualties on either side. How did they manage that?" Vex asked. "New non-lethal weapons based on human technology. The pirates' ships were disabled, and the crews were transported to rehabilitation facilities instead of prison colonies. The rehabilitation facilities were another human innovation. Instead of punishing criminals, they worked to understand why individuals turn to crime and help them find better alternatives. The recidivism rate was remarkably low. Admiral Jang Sora appeared as a hologram on the bridge. She now coordinated the entire cooperative fleet from Earth's hidden command center. "Gentlemen," she said with her usual crisp efficiency, "we have a situation developing in the Gamma Quadrant. Long-range sensors have detected an unknown fleet approaching from extragalactic space." Vex felt a chill of fear. "Invasion force?" "Unknown at this time. The ships are using technology we have not seen before. They appear to be moving in formation toward inhabited systems." Captain Zeth studied the tactical displays. "How many ships?" "Approximately 300 vessels ranging from frigate to dreadnought class. They will reach the outer colonies in 48 hours. This was exactly the kind of crisis that the old Galactic Order would have handled poorly. Individual species would have tried to defend their own territories while arguing about who should take the lead. Coordination would have been impossible and millions would have died in the chaos. "What are our orders?" Vex asked. "Full cooperative response," Admiral Jang replied. "All available vessels are to rendezvous at Rally Point 7. We will attempt peaceful contact first, but be prepared for any possibility." Over the next day, Vex watched in amazement as the cooperative fleet assembled. Ships from dozens of species worked together with perfect coordination. Human vessels provided command and control systems, while alien ships contributed their unique capabilities. The Saurian Republic provided heavy assault ships with powerful shields. The Jektar Collective contributed their precision targeting systems. The Kirel Federation offered their fast scout ships for reconnaissance. Every species brought their best technology and expertise to the common defense. Dr. Yoon Minho, now serving as Chief Diplomatic Officer, coordinated the first contact protocols. His team had prepared communication packages in hundreds of languages, including mathematical and musical concepts that might work with truly alien minds. "Contact established," Lieutenant Han reported from his position at the communication station. He had been promoted to Head of Intelligence Coordination and was now openly wearing a proper military uniform. "The unknown fleet is responding to our signals." The main view screen showed an alien face unlike anything in the galactic databases. The being had features that seemed to shift and change, as if it existed partially in another dimension. "I am Nexus Prime of the Void Seekers," the alien said in a voice that sounded like distant thunder. "We have traveled from the dark space between galaxies in search of new resources and territories." Dr. Yoon stepped forward with his diplomatic smile. "Welcome to our galaxy, Nexus Prime. I am Dr. Yoon Minho, representing the Galactic Cooperative. We are interested in learning about your civilization and exploring possibilities for mutual benefit." "Mutual benefit?" Nexus Prime's shifting features showed what might have been confusion. We do not understand this concept. In our experience, stronger civilizations take what they need from weaker ones. We have found that cooperation produces better results than conquest, Dr. Yoon explained patiently. When species work together, everyone becomes stronger and more prosperous. The Void Seeker leader studied the assembled fleet on his screens. You have many different species working together. This is unusual. How do you maintain control over so many different groups? We do not control them, Dr. Yoon replied. We coordinate with them. Each species contributes their unique strengths to the common good. And if they refuse to contribute, then we help them understand why cooperation benefits everyone. But we have found that most reasonable beings prefer prosperity to conflict when given a real choice. Nexus Prime was silent for several minutes, apparently consulting with his own advisors. When he returned, his manner seemed less aggressive. We have studied your fleet formations and technology signatures. Our analysis suggests that you possess sufficient military capability to resist our expansion by force. We do, Admiral Zhang confirmed, her hologram appearing beside Dr. Yoon. But we would prefer to offer you something better than conflict. What do you offer? Dr. Yoon activated a holographic display showing the cooperative's territory and resources. Membership in our alliance. Access to the combined knowledge and technology of 47 species. Trading rights throughout our space. Protection against external threats. Most importantly, a chance to build something greater than any single civilization could achieve alone. The negotiations continued for hours. The Void Seekers had expected to find a fractured galaxy, where species fought each other over resources. Instead, they discovered a unified civilization that could offer them everything they needed without the costs and risks of conquest. Meanwhile, Hana worked at her new station as Cultural Integration Specialist. She was helping prepare protocols for bringing the Void Seekers into the cooperative if negotiations succeeded. Her grandfather's uniform hung proudly in her quarters now, no longer a secret, but a symbol of humanity's long commitment to galactic peace. Dr. Yoon, she reported, preliminary cultural analysis suggests the Void Seekers operate on a hive mind model, with individual nodes retaining some autonomy. Integration should be possible if we modify our standard protocols. Excellent work, Dr. Yoon replied. Prepare a cultural exchange program. I want them to see how different species maintain their unique identities while working toward common goals. By the end of the day, an agreement had been reached. The Void Seekers would settle in an uninhabited sector of space and begin the process of joining the cooperative. Their advanced dimensional technology would be shared with other species, while they would gain access to the galaxy's accumulated knowledge and resources. Commander Vex watched as the former invasion fleet began moving toward their new home. Crisis had been averted without a single shot being fired. Sir, Officer Quinn said from his station, I am detecting more signals from extragalactic space. It appears the Void Seeker's arrival has attracted attention from other civilizations. Vex smiled. Each new challenge would be met the same way, with cooperation instead of conflict, diplomacy instead of warfare, and the combined strength of species working together. Send word to Admiral Zhang, he ordered. It looks like the cooperative is about to get bigger. As he looked out at the stars, Vex reflected on how much had changed since that day in customs when they had first discovered Hana's uniform. The galaxy was becoming a better place, one species at a time. The old order of endless wars and competition was ending. In its place, humanity had helped build something that their ancestors could only have dreamed of, a true galactic civilization based on cooperation, understanding, and mutual respect. And it had all started with a nervous student carrying her grandfather,